Between you, me, and these two screens. Hey, what's the word? Welcome back to another episode of Sunday Sidecar, the series where we're rolling like a stone against the backflow of last week's Tuesday Ukeday drop from yours truly, Uke Brute. This week's episode, Between You, Me, and These Two Screens. Alright, so this song is another 2024 ditty. Wrote it this year. This song originated as just the lyrical melody. I know there's a few times I've mentioned this before, but the first line or two came to me that my only friends are the randos lurking in the backgrounds and the shadows. Whoa. And as I was walking around, it was like a lunchtime, and I was like going to get lunch, taking the pupster for a walk. And by the time I got home, I had like those first two lines down. It was my only friends are the randos lurking in the backgrounds and the shadows. Whoa, 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 whoa. My only friends are the widows featured in the corners of lost side shows. Whoa, whoa. I had those lyrics, but I did not have the accompanying ukulele melody. And it happens to me a lot, walking around or just doing things during the day, and I get this lyrical line, that'll come to me, and typically it never I can never find something that translates to play along with it, and it's frustrating because I'm like, I love how this sounds, and it gets head, and but this one was like maybe later that night. I'm thinking because the song was like that little earworm of the lyrics were stuck in my head, so I'm like, I'm gonna see, maybe play around, see if I can find anything. It took a little while, but I was able to then, I think I matched it fairly well, at least for my own expectations. That there's that F, G, like a B minor, I'm thinking. Usually, again, you should probably bar it and then use two fingers, but I do it like that. My claw, down to C, G, and then pop that pinky in. I don't know what this chord is, but it's just the G with the pinky dropped in on the C, so that. You get it. The strumming is what kind of makes it, I think, though, because as you can probably tell from the strumming throughout the song, it goes in and out because I was working on several different strums for this, strum patterns, and yeah, I didn't really nail it that well in this song. It's a tricky strum, and I realized I totally butchered that second verse, but between you, me, and these two screens, let's just keep that here. But I had that, so I had that first verse, and I probably had a line or two or something for the second verse, but it wasn't really, polished. But that's all I had for it, and it was just kind of like, okay, now what? Where does it go? Where did it come from? Where does it go? And then like a couple days later, a really good friend of mine, we were talking, and he you could tell something was really like going on. Something was really kind of not right with him, and I was like, "Hey man, what's going on? We can talk. We're really old friends. Let's, we want to talk about something. And eventually, dudes can be. And eventually, I kind of pulled it out, and he let loose, and it was a really good talk. And I didn't realize this was going on in his life, and it seemed like it was kind of cathartic for him though. I gave the best friendly advice I can give. Essentially, that was that Sean Mullins song, like what, right? Or like everything gonna be alright, rockabye. I hit it higher. Everything's. Anyway, it's like things will work out. Things, it'll come together. You'll solve it. It's just an obstacle in the course of life. We kind of hashed it out. It was a good deal. And then a couple of days later or so, or the next time I was working on this song, all of a sudden I was like, hey, kind of speaks to that conversation we had. And so I kind of leaned into that more so for the song. It didn't really, help just kind of flush out the verses at the time, and that's still all I had for it. But then as I'm going through this, I thought back to like a few weeks earlier, before I even came up with any of this. That same friend and I were having a conversation, and I had some, a little tea to spill about somebody, and I was just kind of like, hey, between you, me, and these two, I was texting it, like, between you, me, and these two screens. I remember even at that time I was thinking, I'm like, kind of like that line. That's actually, I like that, between you, me, and these two screens. I was like, I wonder if I can fit that in, because it was part of the conversation I was having with them, and it felt appropriate. And lo and behold, and I got that between you, me, and these two screens, and it was kind of coming together. And I was like, yeah, and I was like fleshing out the rest of the art. That second verse is, essentially, like, there's gonna be downtime. There's lots of like death and gloom in the future, but it's gotta, you gotta. Dealing with the death blow, dynamos rolling like a stone against the backflow. Whoa, whoa. And that's kind of what gets into that third verse as well. We're all the heroes. In this case, ex nihilo, typically, it means both, from or out of nothing. From nothing or out of nothing. Typically, it's that creation out of nothing. Creation ex nihilo. But here I'm using it as from nothing. Like the big nothing. It's like, we're all the heroes caping up to save us from the big nothing that's looming. And that's why we just have to, make our own anti-froze. Creative liberties we're taking, I can assure you with that. So that's how the verses came along. And then, for the refrain, that, tell me more, tell me less, or just let me guess. Less, or just digress, or just let me guess. I think it kind of explains, it's kind of self-explanatory at this point. Hey man, like, tell me more. Don't tell me, it's cool. Let me guess. Whatever, if it needs to get out, it gets out, understand it's not always, something people want to talk about, but you gotta. That's what friends are for. That's what we're here. We don't need the capes to save us from nothing. We need friendship. Those weird, rando friends, featured in the Lost sideshows in the background and shadows. I realize this is probably not the most reassuring song when it comes to somebody in a hardship. It's like, hey, you're my friend and you're a weirdo and you're in the shadows and you lurk, and hey, don't worry, like, death is upon us only soon on the black rose. But we'll be reborn in the spring regrowth, decompose in the ground and create new flowers, new trees. Maybe not the best, and just got to protect ourselves from that cold cosmos that's everywhere around us, Have to mix your own anti-froze as a bag to a cold cosmos. So cold, such a cold cosmos. So that's between you, me, and these two scenes, or two screens. Just, it doesn't always work out the best in the end, but it works out well. And you just have to be, ready to, I don't want to say roll with the punches, but, just make sure you don't get froze out there. Keep yourself going. So, as always, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it, and please check back soon for another ditty from Uke Brute.